Welcome down the rabbit hole, friends. We're here tonight to talk about Chapter 1, and we're also going to go over the preface of Kate Gosselin, how she fooled the world. But she didn't fool Robert Hoffman.
I went with a friend of mine who worked there. She worked there and for whatever reason asked me to go with her. I was like, I'm not leaving here today until I meet him. I declared that, in fact.
It's important that we talk about the preface because it's in that little bit of writing, if you skip over it, you'd never know, that John Gosselin is actually Robert Hoffman's bestie. Like, they're best friends, Robert and John forever. Robert admits to, going out and partying with John. He says that their families, get together. John comes over, and they were friends long before he wrote this book. He specifically states that he's not going to go into, what was going on with John and all the problems he was having, because, that's already been looked at way too much by the tabloids. At that point in time, he felt like people had already looked into John, and there was more to the story. So we're getting an idea that this is going to be a very biased book. But I like that. I love it. I'm here for it. And I like that Robert says everything up front. He literally writes, I like John Gosselin a lot. He's my friend. I like John Gosselin's family as well. Robert says that he spends a lot of time with his family, and when he goes out with John, he actually has fun and they party together.
God, they do not play around here.
But here's what Robert has to say about John that I think really rings true, and I've heard it whenever I've done other research about the Goslins and specifically on John. Robert says, no matter what John's done or what people have written about him, I have never once seen John act in a rude manner to anyone or act like he was better than anyone. Even when he was being treated like a rock star and on top of the world in Las Vegas, hosting a celebrity pool party, or at MGM's Grand Wet Republic. Even when he was doing that, I was there with him. John has always acted like a regular guy, and he has always treated me and every other media person fairly. All right, so we've got John over at MGM's Wet Republic. He definitely went crazy for a period of time, and we're going to deep dive into that, even though it's not really part of the book. So let's take a look. Following John and Kate's divorce, John started being seen in public by paparazzi with several young girls. He started going out to clubs at night. He was photographed smoking and drinking, which I'm pretty sure it was part of his TLC contract that he wouldn't be caught doing that publicly. But likely, one of the worst decisions he made was getting involved with Kate Major and Michael Lohan, Lindsay Lohan's disgusting father.
From the moment we met, there was an instant connection.
Kate Major exclusively tells our Ken Baker about the reported romance between her and John Gosselin, the relationship that cost her her job and
the John Gosselin and Kate Major story, and then let's just throw Michael Lohan in there, is insanity, chaos within itself. And it's something I'm going to have to cover in another video because it's not part of this book. So just making you aware from the get-go. John is not completely innocent in all of the shenanigans that happened with the Goslins. I always find myself gravitating towards John, especially recently, interviews that he's given. I'm very much like, seems like a very nice, normal guy to be around. But I have to remember that he had a pretty big breakdown and a midlife crisis in which he left his kids at home with Kate and went out partying with the Lohans of all people. Robert Hoffman does acknowledge that in this book. He says, did John deserve a lot or most of the criticism and mudslinging that he received? Of course he did. He's received a lot of very bad advice from unscrupulous people, and I believe he's talking about Michael Lohan here. And he's made one bad decision after another since I've known him. He got caught up in the excitement of being a celebrity, and he got in bed with the wrong people, literally and figuratively. But Robert Hoffman was annoyed that Kate Gosselin was seemingly immune from any criticism, and he wondered why. Was it because she had a lot of money, or because she was backed by TLC, or just because she was a female, the mom in the situation? Hoffman argues that many people have accused him of writing this book for money, and he says, heck to the no, I'm making very little money on this book. And what I would really like to come of it is for people to start questioning why TLC and Discovery kept filming this family for 5 seasons, knowing full well that Kate Gosselin was ABUSING, her children. This is a very serious allegation. And I've only read a little bit further in the book, so I don't know what evidence he's going to have to support it. But from many news sources, we've heard before that there are allegations that Kate Gosselin has a very short temper and has at times been inappropriate with her children. This book is going to highlight a little bit more what's going on with that. But let's be honest, I'm going to be honest with all of you. Of course, Robert Hoffman wrote this book for money. John Gosselin probably gets a cut of it. I'm sure he helped him out. They're good friends. And we have to be aware of people's motives as we're reading or listening or getting any kind of commentary, even my own commentary. Be aware. This channel is monetized. Many of us know that there's a lot of criticism towards people like John and Kate for using their children to make a reality TV show, bring people in and make a lot of money from it. But even now, as Maddie Gosselin, one of the twins, has come forward and she's been speaking out on her Instagram and saying like she's kind of annoyed with people for constantly asking her about the show. Maddie has also monetized her Instagram and she makes money off of posting different videos. She also gets a lot of companies that will sponsor her, send her products, and then she talks about them on her Instagram. She's kind of become an influencer. So it seems to me that everybody is kind of almost always going to be after that bank in some way, shape, or form. Already in the preface, we're hearing about Colin Gosselin. I mean, this is huge. Right from the beginning, Hoffman is highly aware of what's going on with him. He says that in 2010, 2 of the Gosselin kids were actually expelled from kindergarten. Dear Lord, please don't let my son be expelled from kindergarten. I actually got a phone call today saying that they're bumping him to 1st grade, so that's kind of interesting. We'll see what happens with that. But, you know, things happen with kids. I do believe that the Goslins were in a private school, so maybe they just had like additional needs that weren't able to be met in that kind of private setting. They were expelled from kindergarten according to Hoffman for acts of violence and for using foul language. I'm really surprised by that, given the way that Kate seemed very uptight on the show. All right, here we go. Chapter 1 is all about Kate's background. It's called Once Upon a Time, and I'm going to read a portion of it to you now. Once upon a time, there lived a little girl named Katie Irene. She grew up in a beautiful house in the country with a barn and a big yard for her to run around and play in. She had everything a little girl could ever want or need. Allegedly, Kate's mother and father were very involved in her life growing up, who was actually an associate pastor at a local church, and church was a big part of her life growing up. This makes a lot of sense to me. Kate was known for being a Christian and taking her religion and her faith very seriously. We've seen this on the show, and it's going to come up throughout the book, that Kate often turns towards God or prayer when something is going wrong in her life, when something isn't perfect, when she can't be as OCD as she wants to be, when she thinks that there's something wrong with Colin or someone else. She often turns to prayer, saying like, I'm going to pray for you. I'll make it better by praying for you. Kate dreamed of meeting her knight in shining armor. Hoffman says, she knew that one day her prince would come riding up on his big white horse and sweep her off her feet, and they would get married and have a house full of children of their own. She dreamed that very same dream every night until at last it finally came true. I guess John was that knight on a white horse that she had been waiting for. That's the fairy tale that Kate had always been dreaming of. But the next chapter is entitled The Formative Years. And it tells the real tale. Like, this is all kind of like the dream life that Kate portrays to everyone she had growing up and what happened to her. But according to Hoffman, in the next chapter, all was not what it seemed. That from the beginning, Kate demonstrated a desire for fame and monetary riches. And that from an early age, he believes that she demonstrated emotionally disturbed behavior. Because this seemingly loving and Christian household was later admitted to have been a very violent place to grow up. Okay, so join me next time when we'll go on to chapter 2 entitled The Formative Years and learn the truth, the reality about Kate's childhood. Thanks to all of you for joining me. I plan to go live Sunday evening, 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I hope to see you then, and we will chat more about the Goslins and whatever else is up. Thanks for heading down this rabbit hole with me. Have a great night, friends.